What does the watcher in the window want? Hey everyone, I'm writing this post because I need to share what happened to me last week. I've been trying to make sense of it all, but honestly, every time I start to understand, I end up more confused and terrified. I don't know if any of you have experienced anything similar, or even if you'll believe me, but I have to get this out there. I worked for a security firm that specialized in reviewing security footage for libraries and museums across the globe. I loved it, honestly, because I've always been a fan of history and literature, and the job allows me to work from home, which is a huge plus. Pretty standard gig, really. Outsourced security means that these places don't have to pay for many night guards and the like, and if there's an alarm triggered, we have that on-hand team to notify the cops. My job was just to review the footage after the event if something had indeed gone down. Anyway, let me get to the point. Last week something really fucked up happened. I was going through my usual routine, checking the specialized software that automatically alerts of any suspicious activity in the libraries and museums we cover. Out of nowhere, every single alarm went off at the same time. I'm talking dozens of museums and libraries all over the world. It was insane. At first I thought it was some kind of glitch, so we rebooted the system to see if that would fix the issue. I was then asked to review some of the footage just in case, even though it seemed impossible that every museum and library had been broken into simultaneously. That's when things got fucking weird. As I went through the footage, I started to notice something. There was a brief glimpse or a shade of something in each video, lasting only a few frames. It was present in literally every feed I checked. Multiple instances in the same buildings and all. I had to slow some of the footage down to spot it, but eventually I realized it was present in every single video. At the exact moment the impossible simultaneous alarms came in. The figure, I don't even know how to describe it, but it sure as hell wasn't human. It was vaguely human-like in appearance, wearing an old-time gray suit, like something they'd wear in Peaky Blinders of the Boardwalk Empire. But there was something deeply unsettling about it. Instead of a human head, this thing had a giant ear where the face should be. The ear was grotesquely proportioned, far too large for the relatively thin body it was attached to. The earlobe hung low, almost touching the creature's collar, and the outer ear was twisted and gnarled, like the tumorous roots of an ancient dead tree. It was the detail of the ear, though, that really got to me. The skin was a sickly pale shade, like a corpse left to rot in the moonlight. It was covered in a network of pulsating veins so dark they almost looked black in contrast to the pallor of the skin, like they'd been tattooed on by the most sadistic tattoo artist in history. The worming caterpillar seemed to throb with a sinister energy, as if they were channeling some unholy power. The inner ear was even worse. It was a cavernous abyss of darkness, a swirling vortex that seemed to suck up all the light around it, threatening to swallow everything whole. There were no hairs, no ridges, just pure, unadulterated darkness. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure as it loomed in the footage, and the more I stared, the more uneasy I felt. It was like my sanity was slowly eroding, crumbling away in the face of something so unnatural and terrifying. My heart raced and my hands shook as I tried to keep my focus, but it was impossible. The sheer wrongness of the figure's existence was like a weight on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. I could feel my mind starting to fracture, splintering under the pressure of trying to comprehend something that simply should not exist. The strangest part, though, was that the figure seemed to be aware of my presence, even through the screen. It was as if the monstrous ear was somehow listening to me, attuned to my every thought and fear. The more I watched, the more I felt an overwhelming sense of dread creeping in, like I was being consumed by some ancient malevolent force that had its sights on me. I knew what it wanted too, somehow. It was looking for something it didn't have but should, and was furious about it. That fury, I felt it for only the briefest moment, but it was enough to make me know no human being in history knows what true anger is. Our minds simply deep enough to hold such rage. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and let this thing destroy me. So I sent an email to my boss, attaching screenshots and explaining everything I'd seen. I hoped that maybe they had some answers, or at least could tell me that I wasn't losing my mind. But I never got a response. The next morning I woke up to find that the company I worked for had seemingly vanished from the internet. All the downloaded videos that showed the ear-faced being were gone too, as if they never existed. I couldn't find any trace of my employer or any record of the security footage I'd been reviewing the night before. It was like the entire ordeal had been wiped clean from existence. I'm terrified. Not just because of what I saw, but because I don't know what this means for me. I'd worked at that place for 5 years, and it just vanished. None of my team are in LinkedIn anymore, or any socials. Not that I was close enough to follow any of them, but I knew where they were, where they still should be. What if the ear man got to them? What if it was the government? Did I stumble upon something I wasn't supposed to see? Are there consequences for having witnessed this fucking thing? What does it want? I've spent this last week researching and trying to understand what I encountered. I've pieced together bits of information from ancient texts in obscure forms, but I got nothing. I don't know if there's any way to protect myself from the being or the consequences of seeing it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget the twisted visage of this monstrous ear, or the way it seemed to reach into the very depths of my soul. I do know that I can't keep this to myself any longer. I need to share this story, in hopes that someone out there might understand, maybe even explain what the fuck this thing is, and why I keep seeing its eyeless gaze on me from at least one window on every street I've walked down since.